Welcome to another Gene Key Contemplation in a beautiful field on the shores of the Great Pacific Ocean. I hope you enjoy the birds chirping in the background as we dive into Gene Key 42. The shadow of this one is expectation. The gift is detachment, and the siddhi is celebration. As always, we're going to journey through the frequency bands from the shadow, a place where we usually get stuck, but also a place where our gifts can be revealed. The gift being a pathway, a journey of refinement to the highest potential and expression on this human journey, also called the siddhi. The siddhi is like our superpower. It's also this space where we have an embodied knowing or a remembering of our truest nature, our interconnectedness to everything and all that is. Starting with the shadow of expectation, the dilemma of this one is disappointment. And this disappointment happens because we usually allow our mind to create a desire or dreams or an ideal or outcomes that we're looking to achieve. And inevitably, things don't go as planned. And so we are disappointed. And over time, this worldview of disappointment has us distrusting ourselves, distrusting our heart, distrusting others, and closing down. These expectations that we have about life are ultimately serving a higher purpose, and that is at the gift frequency, the ability to let go and surrender. And in letting go and surrendering, this is the gift of detachment, which might not really seem like much of a gift, or if you're familiar with the gene keys, here's a gift, some forest debris in my hoodie. The gift of detachment is a huge gift, as Richard Rudd says in the audio. It's a huge gift because it brings us into an understanding of surrender, or at least it puts us on the journey of surrendering. And it is a journey, as with all of the gifts. It's a pathway. It's a long road. There are no quick fixes. There are no easy steps. And there are no paths that you can follow, because the genius, the gift, is unique to you. Even if you have this gene key, you could read about it in the gene key book, but there's never a direct path given. It's about exploring, our shadows and mining the shadows for the gifts. And ultimately learning over time. And I can speak to this one. I don't have this one in my profile, but I can sure share a story or two or three of coming to a place of just letting go and surrendering and saying, okay, all the plans that I had for my life, they brought me to a place where they all came crashing down. And literally my body collapsed a number of times. And so the book, The Surrender Experiment, came into my life at the perfect time. And you might have heard me speak about that book, or that from Michael Singer, in other videos of mine. And I even have a video specifically about letting go in a combination of Michael Singer and David Hawkins' understanding of letting go, because the letting go to the doing mind, to the mind caught in the shadow of trying to chase their outcomes and the expectations, can really get hooked into what can I do to let go? And letting go is a non-doing thing. So you can check out that video if you want to explore this more. All to say, I'm speaking from a place of a woman on her path of understanding this journey of surrendering and this trust that comes when you begin to realize that the great choreography of the universe has a plan better than I could have ever expected for myself, as I continually let go and surrender to the flow of this choreography that the universe is orchestrating, and allow myself to continually be surprised and step into the unknown. And as Richard Rudd says, where is the adventure if we knew everything that was going to happen in our life and that we had control of it all? And just dipping back into the shadow a little bit, there's always a repressive nature and a reactive nature. And the repressive nature of this one is to just get after so many disappointments, you stop really caring about your life, and you just give up hope. And in the other side is that you control so much to try to get those outcomes and those desires, and you think that you really do have control over your life, and so you're trying to make things happen, that eventually you run out of energy or time, and that also is not the way. So when you eventually collapse, like I did many times, you throw your hands up and you say, okay, I'm going to try this surrender thing. And you are then practicing the gift of detachment. And it is a gift because it actually opens your heart more and it uplifts you. Even though it may seem like, and I remember having this viewpoint when I first learned of detachment when I was studying yoga, it seems like it's very cold and distant and objective. And I just couldn't wrap my head around this idea of detachment. Like, what do you mean you're supposed to let go of caring about the people you love? And so from the mind, we do not understand. But when we live it and when we experience surrender, then we experience the true nature of that, and the true nature of who we are as this cosmic dance. So I'd love to hear from you before we get into the city of celebration. Have you experienced this surrender, or this idea of surrendering to the flow, to your unique flow? And have you experienced your heart opening, or are you in the space where your heart is closed? I have been there. I did not know who to trust. I felt like I couldn't trust myself because I thought that I had been following my intuition, and I had followed my intuition a little bit more from the shadow patterns. But again, as Richard Rudd states, that all those like lost expectations, or those failed expectations rather, they all serve a higher purpose. And this is the journey of life. And at the Siddhic level, we'll jump up to that one now, that we're this celebration. We have to loop in here the story of the codon ring with this one, which is the codon ring of life and death. And I think Richard Rudd introduces this idea of celebration really beautifully by saying, normally we celebrate the beginning, and the end, like our birth date, and then we yearly celebrate our birthdays, and then we, celebrate, more and more people at least are having celebrations of life when somebody dies. That has been a far stretch, at least that I've seen in the past in this Western culture, at least, is not really celebrating death, but thinking of it as a really like a bad thing. I don't know if that's exactly the view, but that's how I sort of felt when I was a kid anyways. Or, you know, if somebody dies of an illness, that they've somehow failed at life, and I know that's certainly not true. So this idea of celebration at the siddhic level is this idea of celebrating in the middle, and celebrating not just once, but daily or in every moment. And of course, to get to this true feeling of celebrating in every moment. And as I have my blog called Life is a Beautiful Art, is to seize the day, the carpe diem. Richard Rudd referenced carpe diem in the celebration as like making every moment artful, knowing that everything is changing and moving in and out of form. And one day, you know, we won't be here in exactly these forms. And I know I'm in a different form than I was even just 3 years ago, when I was still kind of caught up in the more controlling aspects of my life, and judging when things happened that I didn't think should be happening. Yeah, when we allow the challenges in our life to not be seen as obstacles, but rather to be seen as opportunities to refine our frequency and ascend the frequency and experience the miracle of life and what it can offer from the surrendered space, we start to find reasons to celebrate more and more frequently. And, you know, in the state of the world that we currently find ourselves here in 2024, as we are nearing the great paradigm shift, the great change that is coming in 2027, as I've shared in other videos you can check out, or if you're familiar with Richard Rudd, you know, 2027, the main currents and themes and the keys that hold our reality are completely changing, and we're already starting to feel that. I know likely if you're tuned into this video, you're feeling the shifts already. And the invitation being, how can we invite in, yes, more detachment to the outcomes, and more surrender to the flow of life and trust in that, and open our hearts. But how can we celebrate more frequently and bring that energy into these times that we're moving into, when the majority, you know, the mass consciousness is usually a little bit behind, or a little bit in the older frequencies or the lower density frequencies of the shadow. And so how can we bring these higher frequencies of celebration and joy and playfulness into these times? I'd love to hear whatever it is you feel called to share, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Sending so much love to you.